Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast. The #1 show to bring you all things Club America in English.
Oh, what a strike! Club America!
Your hosts for today are Ivan Pineda, Cristian Rosendo, Alexis Juarez, and everyone's favorite cowboy, Dylan Jimenez. Goal! Now let's hit the field and start the show.
America!
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Eagle Eye Podcast. Today we got plenty of stuff to talk about and break down in regards to Las Águilas del América. We're going to be previewing the upcoming CONCACAF Champions League against the Philadelphia Union. And then, of course, we're going to be recapping everything that happened against Puebla and the upcoming match away at Guadalajara against Atlas. But to help me do all of that and more is none other than my two co-hosts from New York. It is none other than AJ and Cristian Rosendo. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Doing great. Just got back home not too long to catch the América Femení game. I'll save that talk for Thursday, but here I am, starting the week off talking everything Club América.
Definitely. Cristian, how's life treating you over on the East Coast?
Life is good. I hope everyone is doing well. Excited to talk about America. Also excited that CONCACAF Champions League is back this week. Have an interesting matchup, so looking forward to it.
Definitely. And me being from the West Coast, I feel like I'm a little bit more than overpowered by the East Coast today, as we do have a special guest coming on tonight to talk all things Philadelphia Union. So we're going to have an expert from Philadelphia come in and talk about that. And none other than the man himself, Mr. Matt Ralph. Matt, how are you?
Great. I'm happy to be joined by some other East Coasters here too. This is awesome.
Definitely, you guys are. It's a 3-against-1 situation here. Excuse me.
And I'm admiring AJ's clock. I like that Club America clock.
Hey, thank you. It's actually a light, but like
light, okay.
How powerful it is. I'm like, I'll keep it turned off, but it's perfect. You can see it right there.
Oh, I thought maybe there was a hand on there, like for the clock.
I wish.
But it might add a little something to his shopping list. Next time he goes somewhere, says, you know what, I'm looking for a Club America clock. See if he can find that. But no, excited to have you on, Ralph. Really excited to hear what you have to say in regards to the Philadelphia Union. And might as well just get started into it. How is Philadelphia coming into this one? We do have the home advantage for the first one, so you guys do have to travel on the road. How is Philadelphia feeling?
Well, you know, they obviously traveled to Mexico City today, and you know, saw some photos of them arriving, and you know, this is all just new territory for this club. I mean, you know, the team was founded in 2010. That was their first season in MLS, and this has been a dream for pretty much everyone who's supported this team since the beginning, that they would have a chance to, you know, to have a run in the Champions League and to play. I mean, to really play a proper Champions League game. I think this is that game. I mean, they did get a chance to play on the road to start their first Champions League game was in Costa Rica against Saprissa, but there were no fans there. It didn't really have the atmosphere of, you know, and Saprissa was, you know, not in the best form. And this just feels like such a massive game for this club and for its fans, to never have experienced anything like this. So it's kind of hard to really tell, like, how is this team doing going into such a big game? But they did get a really critical win for them, a 3-0 win against Toronto at home on Wednesday. And that was really, you would call that was the true tune-up for the Champions League. They did play Sunday night on turf at Gillette Stadium in New England, and they did rotate the squad, with an eye for Thursday. And so that was less of a tune-up and more of a let's get through this game, maybe try to get a result, but like hopefully not get any injuries on the turf and be in good shape to fly back. They actually flew back to Philadelphia from Boston and then flew to Mexico City today. So, I mean, it's hard to say where they're at because this is all such a new experience for them. But I would say that 3-0 win against Toronto does have them, feeling a lot more confident than they were even a week ago.
Definitely. All right. Very interesting hearing, the Philadelphia perspective here, Cristian. Talk about a little bit more about America. We're coming into this one yet undefeated, quote unquote, in the league, 3 games in. But in reality, we haven't looked our sharpest.
Yeah, that's kind of been the story of pretty much the preseason and the start of the season. We haven't seen America's top form yet. Well, who knows what may happen when we add the 4 players that just came back from Tokyo to this lineup. We don't know if Fatih's going to play a part. We don't know if they're going to be incorporated like right from the get go. There are reports saying that mainly all of them will be starting on Thursday, with the exception, I think, of Henry. So it should be interesting to see how Solari does present the 11. But I'm looking forward to a great game overall.
Definitely, and then just to kind of give everyone a perspective of things, the 4 Olympians landed at Mexico City around 3:30 p.m. local time over there on Sunday in Mexico City, and then of course right from the get-go Monday, you see Ochoa, Jorge Sanchez, Henry Martin, and Sebastian Cordova all at training the next day. I mean, what does that really say, AJ, about these players?
Hey, we got some of our best players back in the squad, and we're ready to get things rolling again. We've had 3 games without them, and now we're looking forward to get the squad for the entire season. So can't wait to see what these guys will do with us, coming back with bronze medals from Japan and ready to give it their all for Club America this season.
Definitely. And you know what? We'll talk a little bit later as to whether or not these players fit into the squad right away, or if maybe they need to have a little bit of I don't want to call it an adaptation period, but a sense of, okay, you have to kind of work your way back into the starting 11. But again, we'll have to wait and see, and we'll talk about that a little bit later down the road. But Matt, I'm looking at Philadelphia Union's track record for the past 5 games, and it doesn't look that great on paper, right? A couple of draws, a couple of losses, not that many wins. Would you argue that Philadelphia's form is a little bit, how do I put it, a bit shaky coming into this one?
Yeah, it definitely has been shaky, and I think the piece of it that would probably be the most concerning is that it hasn't been great away from home. They've been decent at home. I mean, they beat defending MLS Cup champions Crew 1-0. It was a really, really strong game for them. Then went on the road and were playing teams they really should be getting results against in the road, and they haven't. They've gone 7 straight without getting a win away from home. So that's one factor that I think, and they've been games where they've found late goals to get a point. They're not games where you feel like they were hard done in, or that they didn't deserve. I mean, there were probably a few of those they probably deserve losses. And the Chicago Fire are not what you would consider a top club, and they had 2 draws against them. So one at home, one on the road, and then did also get a win against them this season. But the form is not really what we've come to expect, at least the last couple seasons, out of this team. But it is a little bit of a different team than the team that won the Supporters Shield last year. You're missing probably the biggest loss from last year was Brendan Aronson, and you see what he's doing for Salzburg right now, and you can see how much of a loss that is for your attack, and that's where they haven't really clicked offensively the way they did last year. Their defense is still really tough to break down. They have arguably 2 of the best center backs in the league right now, with Jacob Glesnes and Jack Elliott, and part of the reason why they've been so effective is just that they're a good pairing in the back, but they're tall, and they've been doing a lot. They do a lot on set pieces. They've scored a lot more on. This was a team that could not score on set pieces to save their life for like 2 years or something, and now that's kind of become one of their weapons. So they've gotten a lot of goals off of. I imagine their goals that other teams are really frustrated to give up. That they're not like, oh, look at that amazing goal, which Paxton Aronson did score a pretty sweet goal against New England. But for the most part, they've been goals where you kind of want that back. Maybe someone wasn't marked properly on a set piece, or there was a scrum, kind of a scrum in the box kind of thing, and the ball ended up in the back of the net. So they're not necessarily flying high in terms of their attack. But Daniel Gazdag, who was brought in from Hungary, he's really starting to kind of find his form. And, unfortunately, Montero, who was, if you look at the highlights of some of the previous Champions League game, he would be one that would stand out. He's not currently training with the team. He's not with the team. He's looking to be transferred. They're working through some sort of transfer deal with him to send him back to Europe. So there's a few things that I think are a little concerning. But again, I think the Toronto FC win, where you kind of saw them, finally kind of break out of this little offensive funk they've been in. It helped that Toronto was on the road and they looked kind of tired. But yeah, their form is not really, it's not what it was this time last year by any stretch.
Definitely. And now that we're kind of on the topic of form, Christian, let's talk a little bit about America, because I know we kind of went over a little bit briefly, but I was talking to Dylan last night, and he made a perfect point, saying that the game against Puebla, we win it 2-0, but it feels like nothing really changed, nothing really was out of the ordinary. And again, speaking to Dylan, I think we both agreed that we're in a really good, favorable position, that fortunately for us, the first leg is at the Azteca. Because I don't know about you two, gentlemen, but with the current squad that we have right now and the current form we had, going over to Philadelphia for the first leg, I would have been a little bit more nervous than I am for Thursday's matchup.
No, definitely. And then I think you can just see overall in the gameplay over the, in the start of the season, it's just something is not clicking. From midfield on, it just seems like there's no creativity coming from players that usually can provide it. We saw a little bit last game against Puebla, but nothing to what I think that we're used to. And in international games, that's something that just can't happen. Over the span of 2 games, very, very, very little mistakes are allowed in these type of games, and it only takes one mistake for the other team to capitalize and then put yourself at a disadvantage. You never want to do that, especially at home, especially on the first leg. There's going to be a lot of changes, I think, that Solari's going to have to kind of fix before this game, and I don't know if that's including everyone from the Olympic squad or changing up a couple players here and there. We definitely lost a good piece on Saturday with something Naveda going down. Even though we saw Pedro Aquino in a slump, I thought Naveda was going to be a good kind of filler for him. Unfortunately, we saw what happened there. But it's just things like that I think that we're gonna miss going forward. I just hope that Solari can find a mix of the tactics coming from the defense and on, kind of just solve this little non-chemistry that we have going on, and it needs to get fixed fast.
Definitely. But as far as things go, I mean, obviously on paper, because the club that we are favorites, and so that adds a little bit more of pressure, I would imagine, to this game on Thursday, because we have home field advantage, obviously kind of quote unquote the favorites for this one. Do you think that kind of pressure is going to weigh a little bit more on players that need to perform, like a Pedro Aquino or like a Leo Suarez if he does get to start?
Yeah, of course. But I think that it's good pressure. I think that's pressure that these players need, maybe to kind of just get things going. It's obviously that Pedro Aquino, Richard Sanchez, Leo Suarez, Alaines are all having slow starts. Maybe they need a game like this to kind of tell them like, okay, the season's here and we're playing an international match, so it's time to kind of pick it up a little bit and provide more for the team. So I hope this is a positive thing. But I guess only time will tell, and I guess we'll see after the full 90 on Thursday.
Definitely. And now Matt said that Philadelphia came into their last game rotating the squad a little bit more than what America did. Your thoughts on that? I mean, we did sub out a couple players to give them a couple more minutes of rest, like Fidalgo. But do you think that maybe this is a game, because it is a semifinal, because you're so close to getting to a final of a Champions League? Do you think that maybe we should have done a little bit more rotation against Puebla?
No, I think we did a good enough amount of rotation. I think Suarez understands that there are 2 competitions at stake, and we need to be at the best position to win both. And if he felt that he needed to keep in those players in order to kind of secure that match, then that's fine. There is still a little bit of a time period between the Puebla game and the Philly game, so I think that's more than enough rest time or recovery time for the players that did start, that will feature on Thursday night. So I think he did good. It's interesting to see what he'll play on Sunday night, but that's a different conversation though.
That will be a different conversation because there won't be that much of a rest period there, Christian, at all.
No.
And it is also an away game. So
Yeah.
right after that, you got to start thinking of the trip to Guadalajara.
Mhm.
Dylan, our other co-host, saying no la you for a CONCACAF Champions League, and we'll get to that in just a second, Christian. But there is going to be some forced rotation in this starting 11 because of that.
Yes.
So I think we can say that George Sanchez is most likely going to have to play in that game. Matt, talk to me a little bit more about how you think Philadelphia Union might line up against America in the Estadio Azteca, and how do you think they're going to try to combat with the so-called, heavy Achilles heel that is the altitude.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, that's probably the biggest question I have going into this game. I think part of the decision to rest players like Alejandro Bedoya and Daniel Gazdag did not start in New England, and probably Jim's not known, Curtin's not known for rotating. He definitely rotated the squad, and I think part of that was probably with an eye to the situation with the altitude, and obviously they're getting in there today. They have a couple days to adjust. I don't know if that how much time that is to actually adjust to playing a full 90 against Club America in that kind of altitude. But that's probably one of the things where I would say I'm most concerned, because they had a recent road trip to Florida, and I know Florida is a whole different situation. It's not an altitude situation, but it's it's an extreme weather situation for them in the month of July, and they just did not look good. They came out, and Orlando's a team you probably you're not super surprised that they lost to Orlando, but then they go down to Miami. Miami's bottom of the table, and just put in a not great performance against Miami, maybe one of their worst performances of the season. So seeing them kind of in that environment, and just sort of facing, frankly, it's the conditions of the weather or the altitude are things that you can't really control as a player, and you can be as prepared as possible, but you're going into that in the game, the whistle starts, and if you're not you're not ready to go. This is a team that has unfortunately conceded a lot of early goals this year, something they did not do last year. I think they've conceded like inside 15 minutes 3 of their last 5 games. That was part of their problem in New England on Sunday. So, and even the Toronto game, really, as dominant as it ended up being with a 3-0 win, they nearly conceded early. I mean, Toronto had probably their best chance of the game, other than a penalty kick that they missed. To open the scoring in that game. So that those two things to me, I think, are concerning, and probably the thing that they'll we'll definitely be watching here in Philadelphia. If they can get through and not concede early, this is a team that the longer you if you don't take advantage of chances against this team, and it's usually inside a half hour, they get more difficult as the game goes on, because while they may not be able to wear down a team as much as they would in the altitude they're used to playing in, they are a team that I think is built to play with a lead, and they will if they can get an away goal, I think it really can really put make this interesting. I'll say that.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. And I think, you touched upon some pretty good, important things that I did want to bring up. But it always is the famous thing, right? The altitude. And it's also going to be a rainy night at the Estadio Azteca. So it should be interesting how both teams kind of factor that in. America, though, should be fine, because our last 2 games at home have been nothing but a rainy day at the Estadio Azteca. So we'll see how the team's able to cope with that. But
and that Portland game was raining, right?
Yeah. Portland, against Portland, it was raining as well.
And things got sloppy in that one.
Yeah, it did.
for both teams, no one was really.
Definitely. We had our scares just as much as Portland had theirs. So we'll see. I feel like Philadelphia comes in, and like you mentioned, they have some pretty good players going forward, and it's something that worries me, Christian, because our defense has been not as stable as we want it to be, right? Those clean sheets might say otherwise on the stat sheet, but in all reality, not a lot of confidence going into this one in our back line.
No, and it's just honestly, it's just on the opposing team to not get an early goal. I think that's kind of been our theme as well, that teams aren't capitalizing early chances when they get them, and it seems like more in the first 20 minutes is when the chances come, and then either thanks to heroics by Oscar Jimenez or just just lack of good finishing from the other team has prevented them from going in the lead and us being down a couple goals here and there. So if Philly would ever want something when going over tape is, okay, we have to capitalize in the first 20 minutes or else we probably won't get another chance after that. Because America does like to play with the lead as well, and once they do get a lead, it's almost kind of hard to beat them. So I guess going into the game, I think both teams are very similar in that it's just, I guess, whoever gets the first goal, I guess, has the better chances of taking the whole game.
Definitely. And AJ, look, this is something that we've talked about a lot on the podcast here, is that, the Solari team loves themselves an early goal when they can find it. But it seems like both teams are coming into this one eerily similar in the way that, both teams have a tendency to sometimes concede early on, or at least, give up chances. But these are also teams that like to, get on the score sheet a little bit early when possible. So how important is it going to be for Solari's side to, take advantage of what Matt said and, open up with an early goal within the first 15, 20 minutes? You are muted, by the way, AJ. Just kind of giving you a heads up.
First things you got to remind, Philadelphia Union, they have scored 9 goals. They've had 3 clean sheets in their games, and they have only conceded 1, that being against Atlanta United. So America's definitely going to need to keep that stat in mind and say, no, let's make that more than 1 goal. We do have opportunities when it comes to the game. We are a possessive side that are looking to play through the middle and give it to whoever our center forwards are, whether that be Roger Martinez or anyone else. So it's going to be really important for them to make the most out of the opportunities they can get, because the opportunity may come once in a lifetime. And if we don't capitalize on that, Philadelphia Union could probably do the same thing to us. They've been scoring goals left and right in this CONCACAF Champions League. So it's really important for a side to not only have his defense as much as a brick wall as possible, but also for everyone else on the team to capitalize on the chances that they get. If you have that open shot, take that shot. That's all I could say for America, really. They got to do everything they possibly can to score a goal against this Union side. That's all I could see.
And you know what the funny thing is here, that I'm seeing another correlation, is that both teams have a tendency of not taking their chances. It's something that I heard over at when you were on the Free Kick podcast, Matt, is that, even against Toronto, there was opportunities to go walk away with that with a 5-0 lead, even so, but there was just chances that weren't put away. I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, you just were talking, AJ. I was thinking about the Atlanta game in Atlanta, first leg of the quarterfinal. Again, I think it's important to note Atlanta did not belong in this competition, and I will keep saying that over and over again, because they won a competition in 2019 and qualified for 2020. It's just absurd. But anyway, they're also a mess, and I'm not sad about that. But I mean, Atlanta came out in that game and just, they were pushing forward with numbers, and the Union did not have an answer to that. But Andre Blake, it should be mentioned, is an incredible goalkeeper, arguably one of the best in CONCACAF. I know Club America has a pretty great goalkeeper as well, who's done some amazing things. Ochoa, he's a guy I love to watch as well, especially with the national team. But they were just shot after shot after shot, and Blake making saves on some of them. He makes the save, right? On others, just they have the shot, but they're not, it's not in the right spot, or they're not, they don't have that clinical finishing boots on in that game. And so that's Philadelphia Union soccer. Is we will bend, and we will bend often if we have to, but we're not going to break. And unless you basically force the issue. And so I do think that, if you look at that Toronto game, again, Toronto had that early chance, they didn't bury it, and then the Union get a goal, and they get suddenly they have 3. They got to go off a set piece. Again, that's been one of their things. They've done a little bit of damage with the set pieces. I mean, Saprissa just didn't know how to defend the Union on set pieces in the first round, or was the round of.
It was the first
16.
round, and don't worry, Saprissa, they were having a really tough time that season, so almost any team at that point could just beat them. So.
Yeah, so I think again, it's one of those things where the and for this, I think the Union, I think they enjoy playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, like no one's giving them a chance to win this game, or at least win this game, especially, but win the series. I don't necessarily think they're going to, but I also think they have nothing to lose. I mean, there's no shame in going to Club America and not getting a win and not getting a draw or whatever. Just limiting the damage. So I think that could play right into what the Union is as a team and the identity they have and the pride they have in what they've accomplished. As a team, because it wasn't Champions League, of course, but they, the MLS, when they did return from COVID, they did the MLS's back tournament, and the Union, while they lost to Portland in the semifinal, were one of the teams that kind of came out of COVID and just were. You could really tell that they were a team together, and they were kind of all firing on the same cylinder. And while they haven't quite reached that point, I do think that's in their DNA, and I think they're a team that can really rally around adversity and really rally around each other in a situation where no one's giving them a chance. And I think that's actually like where they prefer to be, is a team that no one's that everyone's counting out. And Jim Curtin, the head coach, has said to his group, hey, dream it, dream big. We don't. I think a disappointing season for the Union will be if they don't get further in the playoffs at the end of the season, because they've only won one playoff game in their history. There's no Open Cup. They've lost 3 finals, Open Cup finals, but they've done very well in knockout competitions, and I think it's partly because of they have this attitude, and their coach is a Philly guy through and through, who's like, people can count us out, and that's going to just only make us stronger. So I do think in that way it can potentially, play into their hands. And then obviously with the first leg, then they have a whole month to basically go around and gloat that they didn't get, they survived Azteca.
That's going to be interesting. No, you're right. I mean, so it is a lot to kind of take away from that, and I think Philadelphia will give America a run for their money. That's for sure. I think from what I've seen, from what we've been able to capture from this Philly side, they have dangerous players, and I mean, you saw what they did in their previous rounds, AJ, in Champions League. So they're gonna come at this with hopefully everything they got, and hopefully America does the same. Talking about America, Christian, give me your predicting starting 11 for this game on Thursday. I know there's a lot of questions as to who's going to be the starting center back. I know Jose Ramirez saying it should be Valdez and Cáceres. We have Dylan, who's also asking whether or not Henry will be ready for this game, since he did have a knock over in Tokyo. So kind of give us your predicting starting 11. What do you think Solari is going to go with? And then we'll have Matt read out his starting 11 if he has one for us for Thursday.
Of course. So in the starting 11, I have actually 3 of the 4 Olympic players starting on Thursday nights. I'm going to have Ochoa in net, Jorge Sanchez, Cáceres, Aguilera, and Chavo Reyes as the back 4. Aquino, Richard, Sanchez, and Fidalgo as your midfield. Linus, Cordova, and Roger Martinez are your front 3.
Definitely an interesting lineup. One, let's start off with the goalkeeper situation. Oscar Jimenez has been on God mode since Ochoa has been over in Tokyo. Is it fair enough to give Ochoa the starting 11 spot? He is our captain. He did have an amazing Olympic tournament. Do you think it's fair that Jimenez sees the bench again after the performances he's been having? Or is it fair enough to say, you know what, Memo is Memo, and so he has to go in net?
You don't bench the captain,
That's true. I like it. That is what I would go with as well. Now, there's another interesting thing here is Chava Reyes going back to that left back position. We saw some promising things out on the left wing against his former side, Puebla. And even so, whenever he had to play there against Necaxa in the second half, it's a kid that runs. Feel like he's got three lungs for some reason. And is always in odd scoring positions by the looks of it, right? Sometimes playing as a false nine in situations where you think, what's our left back doing there? But he's on a hot streak. He's got a couple goals under his belt in the past 2 games. Is that something that you would think maybe he goes and plays out on the left wing rather than Linus and you rather put in Fuentes, or why Reyes on the left back spot?
I just think that Solari will prefer Linus in a natural position. It's not to say that you won't see Reyes overlapping Linus almost every single play. It's just something that I think Solari loves to do. And I think he found a player that better suits this style. But it also wouldn't be strange to see maybe in a second half or something to move up Reyes and put in Fuentes to kind of just cover him at the left back. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays Reyes, but like you said, Ivan, just a very interesting player to kick off the season.
Definitely. And Jose saying, I would rather have Chava Reyes over Linus. And I think a lot of us feel that same way. But I do agree with what you said, Christian. I think Solari has an eye for what he wants this team to do on Thursday. And that Reyes-Linus combination could pay dividends going forward. So, and even tracking back, because Linus is also one of those guys that have 3 lungs for some reason. Just the man can't cross. That's my only issue with him. So now here's the big interesting thing that I see in your lineup: Cordoba and Roger. Roger, again, yes, he gets the goal against Puebla to open up through a penalty kick. Even wins the penalty himself. Just hasn't really lately been the Roger that we all want him to be. And second of all, Cordoba, right wing spot off the bat.
Right wing spot, yes. It's just going to be an interesting thing to see how he and Fidalgo kind of cope on the same team. I know that last season we kind of saw bits and pieces of sparky moments here and there. Hopefully that gets replicated this season. Hopefully with a better understanding going forward. There were games where Fidalgo played on the right, Cordoba would play kind of in that camp spot that Fidalgo wants, then vice versa. So I wouldn't be strange to see them kind of just alternate throughout the match to see what the game entails and which player is just performing better. It's just going to be interesting to see, and hopefully they can start clicking, because I think this could be a duo, not only for the remaining of the Champions League, but just for the league in general, to see these 2 players kind of click. I think it'd be a beautiful thing to see.
Definitely. And Cordoba, of course, going to be, is he going to have the number 10 jersey, or will he have 17?
He will. No, he will have number 10.
Because he got registered in Champions League at 17.
Right.
And then I don't know if they can make that switch. I don't know. We'll see on Thursday. We should have done better research on that. But Matt, what do you think about America's lineup? And then give me your predicted lineup for the Philadelphia Union.
Well, I want to see Ochoa.
There's another person that does
just because of the the CONCACAF thing, with them and the like I said, I think they're 2 of the more entertaining goalkeepers to watch over the last 8 years or something, with Blake and Ochoa in international competitions, and just obviously with the Gold Cup and everything. Blake has just been so outstanding for Jamaica. And it seems like he's maybe starting to get some improvement in that squad. I mean, you really want to see Jamaica kind of improve and be a team that the challenges in the region. So certainly that. I mean, I honestly don't know a ton about about the team to kind of really comment on the lineup. I do think that the key for for attacking this Union team is going to be players who don't get rattled and can play out of the press, because this team does press well, and when they're doing what they're supposed to out of the 4-4-2 diamond. Now they did kind of run out an experimental lineup in New England on Sunday with a 3 in the back, and was not awesome. And it was sort of out of necessity with just, again, trying to rotate players, get rest. So, I mean, I assume that Jim will be going with his 4-4-2 diamond, and, with obviously Casper is someone who hasn't been great in league play, but he is someone who, the way these things work, like competitions, like he's probably more excited than anybody else on this team to be like, put the league form behind him and get back into, he's a leading goal scorer in this competition right now. And, he's just been, he's been hard to stop in terms of his form in this competition. So I think with him and Sergio had an outstanding game against Toronto. He's, his pace, his strength, as a player up top. So I do think, some of the things you're saying about like the defense could actually be good for the Union, and I think they're going to need to, I mean, Santos is a player you got to watch out for. I mean, he's inconsistent, and always feels like he is like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back sometimes. Like he has this amazing game against Toronto, and then he's left on an island against New England. And after he has one good attempt, but Matt Turner, another great CONCACAF goalkeeper, denies him and then kind of disappears the rest of the game. But as far as the rest of the lineup for the Union, I mean, the only question mark I would put is Baeza has not been in great form as a right back. He does have Alvis Powell on the team. Powell was kind of dealing a little bit with an injury coming back from Gold Cup. So I don't know that he will, but like he could potentially say, hey, Alvis Powell has all this experience. He's played in the Gold Cup with Jamaica. Maybe he's someone he throws out there at right back, but otherwise you'll see Kai Wagner, who's was just named to the All-Star game to play against Liga MX All-Stars in the All-Star game coming up for later this summer. And then so you'll have, he's one of the top left backs in the league with the center back pairing of Jacob Glesnes and Jack Elliott, who've been mostly outstanding. I mean, Jacob Glesnes has had some of his own moments, but on defense, but offensively, he's a weapon. He can score from pretty much anywhere on the field. So he's someone who, he in the league game against Atlanta, looked like Atlanta was going to pull out a win, and he hits an unbelievable shot from long range, and it somehow hits the woodwork 3 times and goes in. And he had a really outstanding shot against LAFC last year from a set piece from really far away. So. And he's also, picked up some assists, and he's a guy that you really have to be careful with on set pieces. So set pieces, or just, you gotta mark them. So against New England, obviously the scouting report says if he's got the ball and he's going to dribble up forward, you have to send a player, because you have to respect his ability to shoot the ball or pass the ball from long range. And so that leaves a little pocket open, a space that Glesnes feeds the ball to Paxton Aronson inside the top of the 18, and he beats his defender and meets Matt Turner. I think Matt Turner going like 547 minutes or something between Gold Cup and league play without letting a goal. So Glesnes is definitely a weapon. And then Jose Martinez, I mean, another guy. He's been in international competition. He got an opportunity to play with Venezuela in the Copa America, and he's a fiery player who sometimes can get himself into some trouble with the referees, but when he is on, he is one of the top holding midfielders in the league. And then of course Ali Bedoya is the captain. He's the lifeblood of this team. Hasn't been in great form necessarily for his standards, but he's the captain. They're going to kind of live or die by him. And then Leon Flock is a 20-year-old German American who has been, up until Sunday, has been a revelation. He didn't have a great game Sunday. Gave up a penalty that ended up leading to the New England penalty, which Blake saved, but then the rebound got put away. So that was the winning goal in the game on Sunday. And then as I mentioned before, Gazdag, he's really kind of coming into form. these players, they end their seat whenever you see this, obviously with the schedule being what it is in MLS, European season ends, transfers come in, they just finished an entire season. That it can be kind of kind of tricky for these players to kind of get acclimated, and I think he's starting to hit that like upward trajectory in his game where fortunately for the Union, it's been happening in the last couple of games that he's really showing his like just how dynamic of an attacker but also a defender that he is. I made a comment earlier today that he's excellent at back heel passes, which did not know to expect that when he came to the league. So just very, very tricky as a player. Hasn't been able to kind of finish anything. He has one goal from the penalty spot, but really just kind of a difficult matchup for teams just because he is, he plays multiple positions. Like he's very when he's on, he's very active and just very disruptive. And really kind of ties into that style that the Union want to play, just to disrupt and to, cause problems and to to harass. And when you have him with Santos and Casper's, not as much of that like disruption so much as he needs like very little space or time to get good shots off when he's in form. So yeah, I mean it'll be the kind of the lineup that what you would call the A lineup for the Union. They're not dealing with any injuries to starters. I mean, Anthony Fontana, who's someone who had to come in and play as a striker who did score a goal against Saprissa. He's been in concussion protocol since the end of June when they played Atlanta in the league play, and so he's a question mark. But generally they'll have their best players out there, and then they've been getting a lot of really good minutes from some of the young players. Quinn Sullivan is a 17-year-old. His first appearance for the first team was against Saprissa. He gets on the field, and there's this horrible tackle on Kai Wagner, and just all hell breaks loose. And it's like, hey, heck of a debut, Quinn. You walk on the field and just everything goes crazy. So that was his debut. So the coach has some some confidence in the young 17-year-old to even though it's the end of the game, but to put him into that situation. He's really performed well coming off the bench, and Jack McGlynn is another young player who's come off the bench and done well. And then Paxton, as I mentioned, scored a goal for them. So I think, that'll be the game plan. I mean, obviously the altitude, not knowing, the performance staff obviously, has a plan in place, but, they're going to, some of it's probably going to be on the fly, I'd imagine, just kind of seeing how these players react to the environment and to the altitude in terms of how when and how they'll utilize the subs.
It's very interesting, and plenty of stuff that America's gonna have to keep in mind, and a lot of stuff that could trouble us going forward. And I feel like that defense is gonna be a little bit tight to break down. But again, that is why you have Roger, and hopefully that's why you have Cordoba showcasing what he showcased in Tokyo. But all right, gentlemen. Anything to add on before we kind of wrap up this CCL preview here from any of you? No, Matt.
I just want to say I'm just really excited about this opportunity. Like I said, this has been something that Union fans have been dreaming of ever since this team became a thing. Like they've been playing a lot of the same teams over and over again because of COVID and travel restrictions and everything. So I'm just really excited, and it's great to connect with. We have a lot of America fans here in this country, and I think it's just a great showcase for Philly fans to get to see There's a lot of Philly fans that support this team as well. So hopefully some of them are maybe are starting to come around to the Union as well as a local team. But I'm just really excited for that, and just the opportunity for these fan bases to connect. And I'm hoping that we can sort of have some banter and talk some smack, but at the end of the day that we all just recognize like how awesome this is, that that we have a team now in Philadelphia that can play on this stage with with a team that has teams like Club America that have so much history and just such an awesome fan base of passionate supporters all over the place, right? So I think the Union have a long way to go, but I think this is just another step in the right direction to kind of get. There are like 65 fans that are going to be there at Azteca, and they're never going to forget the experience, I'm sure. And hopefully next time at Azteca we get 3 times that number, right? So that's just I'm just really excited for that.
Should be an interesting one. Should be a fun one. Reminder that game on Thursday is going to be live via through the NFS1. That's 7 p.m. Pacific time, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. And for those of you guys that want to keep up with this with us over on Twitter, that is going to be at the Eagle Eye Podcast. You guys can follow us there. We'll keep you guys up to date minute by minute with everything going on in and around that matchup. But all right, gentlemen, before we wrap it all up here, I do want to get you guys a scoreline prediction. And Matt, seeing as how you are our guest, I'm going to give it to you first.
Oh boy, I'm thinking 2-1 to the hosts. I think I do think it's going to be a tough night for the Union, but I do think that they're going to find a goal in this one. Probably through a set piece, but they're going to find one.
That sounds very America way to concede, Christian. What is your prediction?
It does. But I think I'm gonna stay true to my prediction. I've been going all season long. I think I'll go 2-0.
2-0 America. All right. AJ, what is your prediction?
We're going 2-0. We're never scoring
2-0.
3. It's not happening to Soler era anytime soon again. Maybe once in a blue moon we'll get the 3, about 2-0 for now.
2-0 for now. Okay, a lot of confidence coming into this one. And if it wasn't enough said here, Jose saying 3-1 to America, 1 by Chava, 2 by Fidalgo. Definitely would be an interesting one. On the other hand, I'm going to go as conservative as I can be because I don't see this side firing on all cylinders right away. And Chris and I are on the same page. 1-0 to America. Cordoba with his first goal as our number 10. I don't think he's going to be the one on the score sheet, but I do think that America walks away with it just enough, 1-0, which ideally, Christian, would not be the scoreline you want going away into Philadelphia because we know that's not going to be an easy matchup. And again, we do have quite the time before we have to worry about that game because it's going to be in September, which is weird. But I think America needs to get the job done at the Estadio Azteca, and preferably.
And you'll have a lot of fans there too. So
yes, we will. We'll find a way. We'll find a way to almost be local in any matchup that we
Listen,
can.
as long as they save the goals for Philly, then it's okay. I'm all for it.
Bet.
Right, AJ?
Well, these two are going to be definitely going down to Philadelphia to catch that game, so it should be a fun one. But look, overall, we expect a good matchup. Let's hope Philadelphia comes out with their best. That way it presses America to be their best. And like we mentioned, hopefully with these players incorporating themselves back into the starting 11, Solari can finally squeeze what he wants to squeeze out of this team and look better, not just for the Champions League, but for the season, ahead. We'll see what happens. But that pretty much wraps up our Champions League talk here. Matt, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. Thank you for coming on and giving your expertise over on Philadelphia and all things the Union. If anyone that is listening to this is a Philadelphia fan and wants to follow you because you are the go-to man for all things Philadelphia Union, where can they find you on social media?
On Twitter at MattRalph_TBG, and of course at Brotherly Game is the site, and brotherlygame.com.
Definitely, Matt. Thank you so much for everything, for your expertise, and we hope to have you on the pod. Hopefully within a month's time, whenever we have to travel away to your home ground.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that you guys are talking about the Philadelphia Union, man. This is great. Like I said, I'm just excited about this, and it's just great to be kind of in the same conversation as a club like America. So that's awesome.
Will you be going to the away leg?
Oh yeah, I'll definitely be there.
Well, maybe you'll run into these two.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll have to connect for sure.
Yes, of course.
Yes,
that is for sure. Well, Matt, again, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. Any last words?
No, thanks again for having me. And yeah, I'll definitely. I got some posters to give you too, guys. Ivan, I'll mail you one. I'll get your address. One of our guys made a poster for the games.
Oh,
so,
that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Well, thank you so much. Really, thank you. And again, we'll be talking very soon, and hopefully, roll around September, we can talk about how America needs to just hold off for a 0-0 in advance.
The more
All right,
boring, the more boring, the better, right? Those
yes.
are the games you want. Like, it's just
Oh, yeah. As long as we get through.
Yeah.
No, but thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. All right, gentlemen. That was great having Matt on here. And now we're going to be talking not CONCACAF Champions League. We just finished talking CONCACAF Champions League. We're going to be talking Liga MX here. And yeah, no, I got the fever here. And so it should be a fun one, talking all things American Liga MX going forward. We're going to be talking and recapping the game against Necaxa, and then we're going to be looking forward ahead into what is the game against Atlas at the Estadio Jalisco. But beforehand, I do want to remind everyone that today's episode is brought to you guys by Foot Cult. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you guys check out footcult.com. Get 10% off using the discount code EEP at checkout. Again, that is discount code EEP at checkout to get 10% off all Foot Cult products. All right, gentlemen, let's jump into this one quickly. America walks away with a 2-0 victory against Puebla. Talk to me a little bit more about this game. Roger Martinez gets on the score sheet right away. Well, not right away, gentlemen. Gets on the score sheet via penalty. And then, things start looking a little bit better for America. But then, this all came after the Santi Naveda injury.
Right.
What's our one takeaway from this, Christian?
My takeaway is I got a score prediction right. Okay, 2-0. Here we go. This is my doing. But like you said, though, just kind of the same thing over and over that we've been saying. The goal comes from a set piece, and then a lucky deflection here. There wasn't really that much concrete chances going forward besides that 5v2 that we had that we somehow did not score on, and it's just frustrating things like that this team should be capitalizing and scoring and putting these numbers up on the board, but it's just they're having so much trouble doing it, and I don't know what's it gonna take, but something needs to change fast, because we're getting close to the end of these so-called easy games. And we still seem like we're still lacking a lot of creativity going forward, and a lot of determination, a lot of finishing. Which can't have that, especially on Thursday night. We're gonna need some of that finishing to come in handy if we want a good lead going into Philly. Just one last thing to worry about in the sense. So this team needs to figure it out fast. This needs to play with a lot more determination, a lot more heart, and just overall, just do whatever somebody asks you to, man. It seems like he's just getting frustrated more by the game. And hopefully with the Olympic players coming, we get a more clear vision of how we want to play.
Definitely. And Jacob Lau saying, Solari was watching the Eagle Eye podcast and saw my comment about Chava Reyes at left wing and Luis Fuentes at left back, which, by the way, round of applause to Jacob for getting that prediction correct. And who knows, maybe Solari was watching. And if he is watching, AJ, what's the one thing you would tell him right now?
Con todo, por favor, boludo.
No, I think you're right, though. We got to squeeze more out of these players. Look, this is something that I mentioned, especially when we were having this, when I was having the discussion with Dylan last night, as to kind of what taste we get left behind after this performance against Puebla. Was that it feels like Solari was able to get the best out of them last season, but that's it. Like, he hasn't been able to squeeze it out again.
Yeah, no, and it's just been incredibly frustrating. While, yes, we are getting the results, at the moment we're having the easiest games of the season. We did start off with the draw, but then end up going with 2 wins. But it just seems like we're not happy with those results. It seems like with Solari, at times, it becomes like a snooze fest. Like you mentioned, Ivan, we get the best out. It seems like you got the best out of these players last season. This season, it's only 3 games in, 4, maybe too early to judge, but I just feel like we should be doing more at this point. It just needs for it to be more exciting for these upcoming matches, especially since we got the CONCACAF Champions League right around the corner.
Definitely. And let's talk a little about this 5v2 situation that Chris is reminding us about, that Layun is the one who misses it. By the way, I don't think Layun is at fault for this one, because Roger should have played it to the person to his left. I don't know why he gave it to Layun, to be honest. Mm-hmm. He gave it to Layun in where it was easier for the defender to cut in and slide tackle rather than give it to the player that had more advantage, which was on his left-hand side. I don't remember exactly who it was, but yeah, that 5v2, I was ready to turn off my TV at that point and say, you know what?
That describes the America season so far.
Todo es culpa de Layun. At
this point, it is.
But it's just if we blow opportunities like that, That's just gonna
Then
be
what
a
are we
meme,
gonna put
bro.
away? You know? Yeah,
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
that's the real
Mhm.
thing. But you know what? The big takeaway from this is at least that we continue to get the 3 points in the start of the season where we should be getting the 3 points. But that is really the only thing we can take away from this. There's more things to worry about than things to walk away with content about, right? There's things that still aren't clicking, like Christian said. There's players that aren't performing to the level, like we mentioned with Aquino. And unfortunately, now we have a player that was up and coming that we thought could potentially break into the starting 11 if any one of these two kind of slacked off, which it looked like it was happening. And now he's gone for about 4 months. And so Christian will have a little bit more of updates in regards to Coapa injury news. We might have Nico Benedetti coming into the mix against Philly. No Federico Viñas as of just yet. What's going on in and around that? Christian will have us more updates right now. But as far as this game against Puebla, if you had to give it a grade, AJ, what would you give it?
Against this game against Puebla.
Yeah.
5 out of 10. for me.
5 out of 10. Christian.
6 out of 10.
I'm more around Christian. 6 out of 10. It wasn't a 5 just yet, AJ. It wasn't a 5
Yeah,
just
relax,
yet.
AJ. Let's go. We scored 2 goals, man. Come on.
Yeah, but there is one thing that there is maybe one positive thing to highlight, and that's the clean sheet. I don't think
Again.
I remember Oscar Jimenez having to do too much. Maybe there's 1 or 2 saves, but other than that, you feel like the defense at least had their things sorted out somewhat. Better than the Necaxa game for sure.
Yes, 100%.
So there's progress. Dylan's saying that it was a 1 out of 10. So I mean he's a hard critic, and you guys think I'm hard. But again, that's really the big takeaway. 3 points at home, which is important, right? To continue to solidify that fortress of the Azteca. What is it now? 10 games in total now that Solari's gone in the Azteca as undefeated. Something around that's either 10 or 11. Either way, it's good for the player confidence, and I mean we'll see now what happens with the incorporation of the Olympic players. Now, anything else you guys want to add on in regards to this game against Puebla? No. All right, perfect. Then let's move on into the news in and around Coapa. Christian, I told you that we were four weeks away from the end of the transfer window. Now we are 3 weeks away from the end of the transfer window. And we're in the same position that we were last week. And I remind everyone that we will be in the same position next week. And I'm just here to remind you guys. And when the deadline comes and no one has been signed, I'm going to tell you guys, I told you so. But Christian, any updates to make me look wrong and give people hope that something will happen?
The only hope I can give you is that once again, Solari did re-mention the possibility of bringing in someone on that right-hand side during a press conference. But that's just about it, though. There has been no rumors connecting anyone to come to the club. There's been no rumors people exiting the club. The same thing is as last week. Nico, is attracting teams from his home country and one team in the MLS. But like I mentioned last week, the fear with that is just his health right now. Like, is he actually 100%? Will he actually be able to give something to the club in his current state? That's why teams are kind of just not ready yet to pull the trigger. Also, just the wages and then the fee that they're gonna pay America just doesn't seem like just a good business right now for America. So I guess it's still kind of the same thing that we were last week. Renato Ibarra is still training with the first team. No signs of him coming to the first team, actually playing for the first team just yet. He is. There was a little rumor with Renato trying to go to FC Juarez because of an injury that they had over there. That was false though. They're not looking to sign Juarez. They're not looking to sign Renato only because of the same reason why America won't play Renato is it's just a board decision. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's nothing really much to go off of by. In terms of transfers, and just team news, everyone, like I mentioned, the Olympic players came back on this week and are training with the team, with the first team. Everyone is together except for Federico Viñas. He was the only one that trained aside. Still dealing with muscular issues, and it doesn't seem like he will be ready to play on Thursday night against Philadelphia. But this is, extranjero rule doesn't really apply here as much as I think we will see Benedetti on the bench, even though maybe he might not feature. But who knows? Because, like I mentioned, though, we do have a game on Sunday night, and we only have 2 days of rest before that game. So, we might see some bench players that we don't really get to see. Maybe a couple of youngsters coming in the second half. Hopefully, America will have a lead by then, and it won't be impacted greatly. Um, but we'll see, though. I think this might be a good opportunity for players who don't really get to play, to kind of just tell somebody, "Hey, listen, I'm here. If you need me, I'm here to be considered. I'm here to fill in a role that you may need." So important game, I think, overall for the club, to kind of see where their head is at in terms of the Olympic players, and then just people in general who don't really get to play as often. But I'm sorry, I don't have any other news, and I know there's news that people weren't expecting. But that's all I have for right now. It's been very, very, very quiet these past couple of days regarding transfers. I thought we would have a lot more information, but just seems like we just don't. And for the constant cries that Solari is asking the board, it doesn't seem like the board is responding just yet. I'm still gonna hold on to that little hair of hope that we have to bring in someone. But I guess we'll see.
AJ's got more hair on his chest than that little hair for America. So just to tell you what that crisis is going on in America. Look, right now the situation is dire at America, and the only reason it hasn't blown up in our face is because the season is going on at the moment, and because we have CONCACAF Champions League, and because of the league. Everything's just stacking up on America. But I promise you this much, that it will explode if nothing happens. If we are still paying 2 of these foreigners' wages by the end of the transfer window, there has to be a riot. There has to be a consequence for this board. There has to be a consequence for this institution if we are paying 13 foreigners, wasting all that money, and they're not seeing any minutes at all. Something's got to happen. I don't know if as a fan base we need to do something about it, or if there's a way to just find a way to get America's attention, but something needs to
Let's sign
change.
a petition.
So we'll sign a petition. We'll start a GoFundMe of hashtag for that everyone,
for
because
everyone.
at this point it's just everyone that's above Solari. Because it's unfortunate that we're in this situation, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But again, I told you guys nothing was gonna happen last week, and we're here. Nothing happened. Next week, I promise you, again, nothing will happen. So just wait. Things are gonna look dire, even more so as we get closer to the transfer windows ending and closing. But again, we'll see what happens. But again, don't hold your breath for anything at all. Nothing. So we'll have to wait and see and find out what happens. I mean, we don't even have money to buy these guys' contract out. That is how bad we are. All right. And I'm just putting that into perspective for all of you guys. But that pretty much does it. And then obviously we talked Champions League with Matt, and then we'll have a home game here. But then right afterwards, there's gonna be a practice session on Friday. It'll definitely be recovery for those players that played Champions League, regular practice for those who didn't, and then you have to travel away to Guadalajara. And knowing Solari, he'll find a way to practice that day as well. It won't be too extreme, but we do know that he likes to have his practices, especially away on the road whenever they have to be in that city. So it's a tight schedule, Christian, and not just so much this game, but I'm looking at the schedule for America within the next week or so. You're talking Philly Thursday, then you have Atlas Sunday, then you have Juarez Wednesday, and then you have Tijuana Sunday. That is 4 games in the span of 1 week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is where ridiculous. Rotation and depth were going to be key. Players like Naveda were going to be important in this run of games. Thank God we have the Olympic players back, but they're also a little burnt from playing the tournament. So you really can't expect them to go 110% right off the bat. And we're going to need that kind of help. So, like I said, these are games where I think players who don't regularly play need to really take advantage. Hopefully, I think we're going to see a good mixture on Sunday, and hopefully it pans out. Hopefully, hopefully they're the players that don't play regularly, catch Suarez's attention, and they could maybe they're the missing piece. We don't know. But like you said, I mean, it's a tight schedule. I think America needs to be prepared for it. We wanna keep this run of form going. I don't think I'm crazy to say that we can go 4 for 4, because it's definitely possible. It's just we need to be, as each game goes on, I think we need to get a little bit better and better, and then I think by in doing so, we'll get to the place where Solari wants to be, and I think we'll get to a place where I think fans can kind of say, okay, maybe the start of the season was a little rocky, a little shaky, it's understandable, but I see my team now going in the direction where it needs to be, and then now we can start, potentially build something for later rounds of playoffs and even maybe talk championship. But we're far from a championship team right now. But it's games like these that if you can find the resilience and you find the heart and the determination to get out of these games and play well, doing so, gaining all the points, in this stretch, I think that it's a positive sign, and I think it's a positive sign and something that America needs badly.
Yes, extremely badly. And a quick shout out. We have AP Junior, the King, saying hi. Hello to you as well, AP.
Hello.
Well, I mean, with that said, that pretty much rounds up the news of Coapa and kind of the dire situation that we're in America. We don't really like to talk much about it, and the press and the media isn't really talking much about it either, which I think is the one thing that baffles me, AJ. I don't know why this hasn't really been front headline news. I guess it's because it's been a summer of Messi leaving Barcelona, Mexico losing CONCACAF, Nations League and CONCACAF Gold Cup. So there's been other things to kind of talk about that maybe surpass the financial crisis that America's in at the moment. But word is eventually going to get out.
I have no clue when it's gonna really happen, to be honest. I mean, even the Fuera bathrooms hashtags, I haven't been seeing them at all.
Yeah, they've been dying down a little bit.
Yeah, nah, it shouldn't be dying down. We need some form of content revolving around America.
Yeah, Chris has been a little bit light on the Fuera Baños.
Yeah, man. I see that daily. When you wake up, you tweet it. That's it. When you're in the bathroom, you tweet it.
And well, I mean, look, it's gonna have to be a different podcast when we talk about the situation that America, and it's probably gonna have to be the one after the transfer window closes and nothing has been made of, and we'll dive deep into what could potentially be the next step for America. But as of right now, things not looking good, but have been swept under the rug in the meantime, but only in the meantime. And of course, look, AP Junior joining into the Fuera bathrooms, and of course, Chris Rivera saying Fuera bathrooms. I wonder if anyone just kind of reads this out of context and they're like, why are they throwing away their restroom?
It's bad, just like baños. So
it doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't
work anymore.
No.
There's one toilet we're definitely not betting. That's for sure. All right, gentlemen, let's move quickly here and talk about Atlas versus America on Sunday. Look, like I mentioned, it's going to be a short rest. It's going to be a quick turnaround for America, and it's an away game. That doesn't favor America at all. I don't know if about you, gentlemen, but I would rather much America travel to Guadalajara on Friday and not practice. That way you have some sense of recovery for the players that played, and that way you're not, forcing anything really. That way you have Saturday to just completely train in Guadalajara, and Sunday you can take care of the matchup. But again, it's a quick turnaround. Games on Sunday because of the fact that we're playing CONCACAF Champions League, and we're going up against a pretty decent Atlas side. I mean, they're winning right now at halftime against Pachuca 1-0. They got their victory at home away last week, and they drew their first opening matchup. So they're looking pretty okay. I mean, we haven't sat here and watched them and being able to dive deep into what happened. But one thing is for sure, we got to make sure that everyone that's going to be on the bench is on that list. Because I don't want to repeat a Viñas at all. All right? So we got to make sure that is all right, is just all fixed. Do you wonder if the guy who made that mistake that still has his job is maybe kind of like feeling like hot flashes, having to go back to the Jalisco and make that
flashbacks. It's war flashbacks. As soon as he sits down, gets the pen paper, or just types on the computer, just remember who are we bringing with us?
Yeah, I gotta make
Who
sure
is it?
the player is registered.
Yeah.
Yo, even when he puts it down, he's like, "Are you sure? Are they coming? Yes. Okay.
How
That's the
fitting
way.
would
Yeah.
it be for Venus to score in this game?
Well, he's not because he's not even fully fit. Something's going on with Venus. Something doesn't feel right here, and I know
Yeah.
all of you guys can agree to that.
Yeah,
Something
but
is doesn't feel right.
like you said, though, I think this is a conversation we need to have after the transfer window, and I think it's something that everyone would want to hear. So if you guys want, we can coordinate something. But yes, I think everyone is on board with you. I think everyone knows and feels that something is off with Venus, and this injury thing is just kind of like a filler to of what's really going on. If he really is injured, then yes, by all means, and he's having trouble, physically, then I understand. But it just seems like it's not Venus. It's not Venus. It's not the Venus that we know. So I would be also on the board to say that yes, I think there's something wrong with him.
AP definitely agreeing with me, saying that it is a very fishy situation. Um, Christian, I've been saying I think he's being negotiated or they're looking for something, but that's a long negotiation to be honest. I don't know. Well, like again, Christian mentioned that this is a discussion that we're gonna have to have after the transfer window, because there's still a lot of variables to be played out here. And again, 3 weeks is still kind of a long time to be doing business, but again, it's also a very short amount of time. Again, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But gentlemen, how are we coming into this one? I mean, obviously the big takeaway is going to be what happens away. I mean, not away, but what happens at home against Philadelphia and how the team is looking like after that game. But overall, thinking about league form, this is a pretty good matchup for Solari's side to really put to test, whether or not we're ready for something. What's your guys' takeaway?
No, definitely. I think this is the hardest game. I think so. They're gonna have to play this season right now. As of right now, it's gonna be a good test, even with limited rest, short rest. It's gonna be interesting to see, and I hope America can kind of find the will and the determination to pull it out.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a fun one. Um, but I don't know. It's not going to be an easy game, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Atlas are looking good so far. I mean, Julio Furchi's been on fire so far, but it's not the side, and you see how deadly he could definitely be when completely healthy, especially when you see him back at Santos. But it should definitely put Solari to the test. I'd say one of the mini tests for this season. See what he can do against this Atlas side. Hey, being played early as well, so be fun to see. Be fun to see what he can do against this Atlas side.
I haven't seen America play on a Sunday at 3 p.m. my time, 5 p.m. in
Facts.
so long.
I re-
And let me tell you guys this much, and maybe to get you guys' nostalgia back up, this is not going to be our only Sunday game match. We have our next home match, which is against Tijuana. That's also going to be a Sunday game. That's also at 3 p.m. So America Sunday at 3 p.m. with those jerseys, Christian, that we're talking so much that
Dude,
bring back memories.
Listen, I think they did this on purpose, and but I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. Those Sunday games at 5, 6 o'clock, they hit different for sure.
Definitely.
But hopefully we come out with W's in both of them.
please.
Definitely. Hopefully. Well, Christian, I'm not going to ask for a predicting lineup because that would be a little bit absurd, seeing as how difficult that's going to be, because especially having to take in consideration rotations, who's going to be playing on Thursday, what happens on Thursday, a lot of things coming into factor here. But there's one thing I'm going to ask for a prediction, guys, and that is your scoreline, because it's hard to go into this game and really deep dive into it. We know one thing's for sure. America's going to have to continuously build upon what Solari wants them to do, and that's be a very possessive side, like AJ says, who likes to play down the middle and try to explode down the wings whenever necessary. We already know that. We understand that that's the game plan that Solari tries to implement, and that's the foundation that he's been trying to build with this team. So that's for sure. That's forgiven. And we know that this America side needs to go out there, get an early goal, and continue to cement that defense that it's on paper looking solid, although sometimes on the field it looks like we're about to have a nervous breakdown. But with that said, knowing that this is not going to be an easy matchup, knowing we're on the road, it's a Sunday game, your prediction, AJ, for the game on Sunday against Atlas?
1-0. America.
1-0 America. All right. I like it. Christian?
2-1.
Yep. 2-1. I just want to read something here. Whoever Christian says moja is not gonna moja. So basically, whoever Christian says is gonna score, they are not gonna score. Which is, by the way, I've noticed it. But then again, I've never gotten that right, and I don't think AJ's gotten it right, and I don't think Dylan's ever gotten it right either.
Listen. I'll tell you right now, right here for everyone watching and listening. I know who's scoring on Sunday for America. If you guys want me to tell you, I'll tell you guys. But if you guys want me to keep it a secret, I'll keep it a secret. Just know that Fidalgo
just know
is
what,
scoring
Christian.
on Sunday. Fidalgo is scoring on Sunday. Right? Fidalgo is scoring on Sunday, okay? Do not worry. Do not fear. Fidalgo will be scoring against Atlas, okay?
All right.
So
All
it's
right.
just-
Fidalgo moja.
Fidalgo moja.
Fidalgo moja.
Then again, too, I mean, Chris calling me out. I even said Sardes moja.
Oh
Hey,
my god.
that was for the lulz. But all right, Christian, we bet in the house. What are you saying?
Against Atlas, yes. We're better in the house against Philly. We're better than the house against Atlas.
All right. What's your prediction?
I said 2-1.
2-1 America. Interesting. We have Chris Rivera saying he froze, but we talked about that already. AP going with a 3-0 forfeit for America due to player not being registered. Oh God, no, not again.
Sentences that proceed.
Not again, AP. Let's not go through that again. Jose saying 2-1 America, Atlas, 2-1 to America over Atlas. Richard 1, and the other one is Leo Suarez. Interesting. Jacob saying Layun Moja. We'll see who's on the. Oh God, these are absurd. All right. Just outright absurd. He said there's a higher chance Fidalgo passes the ball back 100 times than he scores. This man is calling you out. And we got some laughs here and there. Chris saying
if our front three was more creative, then he wouldn't need to have the need to pass back. I'm just saying.
Look, we'll get into that next week. I think that's something we need to talk about. But I want to see him against Philadelphia and potentially against Atlas. And then we could talk about Fidalgo, because there has been moments where I felt that he's disappeared. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt for these next two games, and then we'll talk about that. I'm going to go with a 1-0 victory over Atlas. That's also a 1-0 victory over over Philadelphia. And we'll see what happens there. But we have taken enough of these people's time. Let's not keep them here any longer, whether they're joining us live right now or whether they're listening to this on their car, on their way to wherever it is that you may be going. We don't want to take any more time. Gentlemen, anything else to add on before we wrap it all up here?
No, I'm good. Just thank you to everyone once again for coming out and listening to us. This is our favorite time of the week, I'm pretty sure, for all these people here. So it's always a fun time talking to America with people that that mean a lot to me. So thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the games this week, and we'll be back here next Monday.
Definitely, we'll be back next Monday to talk all things America. We'll be recapping that game against Portland, against Philadelphia, and then we'll also be recapping
with you
everything.
With Portland, man?
I don't know. I don't know. My mind's over there for some reason.
Listen, we beat them already. It's time to move on to the next one, okay?
We move.
Yeah, time to move on. Let's go, Philadelphia. You're next.
We move.
We move. We definitely move. But yeah, again, thank you guys so much. Thank you to Matt for coming on to the podcast, giving us his Philadelphia Union expertise. Really, really great, really great professional, and hopefully you two get to, run into him whenever you guys do end up going to Philadelphia.
Yes.
So should be an interesting one.
On that when the week approaches.
Yeah. AP saying, Ivan, someone's behind looking at you again. I went over it. I brought in a priest. We did a whole kind of limpia in and around the room. We should be fine. There should be no ghost. So if that is the case, then he might host the next podcast. So we'll see what happens. But you guys have a wonderful time. You guys stay safe out there. Gentlemen, thank you guys for coming out. We won't take any more of you guys' time. We'll be back next week. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Eagle Eye Podcast. Thank you to our sponsors, Foot Call, for making this happen. And yeah, you guys have an easy one and stay safe out there. And as always, Arriba la America. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast. and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever it is you may listen.